So the topic this time around, and I do have a little bit of notes that I took because I wanted to talk about the retail game market. So like not retail as in Amazon too. I'm talking retail brick and mortar. So this is your GameStop, EB Games, Game, Best Buy, Walmart, all of these different groups that actually sell the video games themselves, the box copies of video games, the game hardware, consoles, accessories, all of those sorts of bits and pieces. Now, it's been known for a while, and I'm not going to tell anybody anything that they don't already know in saying that digital revenue is going up, retail game revenue is going down. The last numbers that I saw, just to put a little bit of a finer point on this, is that the worldwide, across the world, everything, this is including your mobile sales, all of those different bits and pieces of video games, went up about 10% from December 2015 to December 2016. And retail game sales in the US dropped by 16%. And that's not just games, it's games, game hardware, everything in the retail side dropped by 16% in 1 year. In the UK, it dropped by 15.8%, right? So we're seeing kind of a correlation here. They're dropping about the same amount everywhere. Now, obviously, a lot of that has primarily to do with the fact that people are downloading their games more often now, right? Steam is a thing. You can go and you can buy games and you can have them on your computer installed in minutes in a lot of cases. Not everywhere. I mean, some people have less than ideal internet connections, obviously. But the shift has become very, very obvious. And based on a couple of little bitty calculations that I had done, we're going to see the physical game market drop under $1 billion in the next 5 years, give or take. If you keep sort of the same trends continuing, you're going to see just this massive shift away. And that assumes that the trend continues at the same rate that it has been over the last little while. So obviously, without question, the retail game market is in trouble, right? We're trending downwards, digital's trending up. Now, a lot of arguments can be made that it has a floor. There's a point at which the retail game market will level out. And the reason for that is people that don't have an internet connection that can support downloading everything, they have to have some kind of physical medium where they can get their game and they can, buy it in a store, right? They have to be able to go and buy it physically. Now, the problem with that argument, and there is some merit to it, but all it's going to do is delay things. There is no requirement for you to physically attend a store. You don't have to go to a GameStop, right? Amazon, I had this number up. I'm going to see if I make sure that I wasn't crazy on this, made $136 billion US in 2016. Now, where do you suppose that revenue came from? It came from Walmart, Best Buy, Sears, Canada, the Hudson Bay Company. All of these different retailers have lost market share to Amazon and other places that sell stuff online. So you don't need to go to a game store. And the question, and whether or not game stores will continue to exist, at least as far as, I would say as far as the big franchises, right? Is whether or not the floor of gamers that require a physical copy because their connection's not good enough, they have no method of buying online, they really, drastically prefer having a box of something, even though the box, in some cases, we're starting to see boxes that are shipped with no disc. Titanfall 2 was the first example that I can think of, and correct me if I'm wrong. And this, again, this is going to go up in the channel, so in the comments, correct me if I'm wrong. Titanfall 2 was, if not the first major title that didn't include a disc in the box. It was just a code. right? You have bought a box with nothing but a code in it. So at what point is the box no longer valuable? I had done a video a little while back talking about this same sort of thing, and how everything is moving towards a digital revenue stream from music and movies and all of these different bits and pieces. And the prediction that I had made at the time, and this is, we're talking 2013, 2014 kind of time frame. I can't remember exactly when the video came out. And I had made a prediction that we were going to go to box copies containing no discs. And after that, after box copies containing no discs, the next step is cards. So just like you walk into a grocery store and you see gift cards on display for Visa and the keg, and, you know, pick your poison, name your company, there's a card for it. Games will make that transition. It will be a period of time where you will not find a box. You will find a card for the next Call of Duty, the next FIFA game. And the reason for the cards is because people still want to buy in person. For some reason, there's a selection of people that only want to buy in person. But cards take up no inventory space, right? So a company like GameStop or any of those sorts of things, they don't have to dedicate a lot of shelf space to these things. Now, that had been my thought at the time. I don't know that necessarily we're going to stay in that scenario for very long. I think that more likely, we've already seen the cards for Steam. We've got cards up for Battle.net, which is now the Blizzard client. Thanks, Blizzard, for changing childhood memories on us. League of Legends. I think there are Dota cards, even though that's kind of duplicated with the Steam cards. I'm not really sure. But the obvious truth of the matter is that even the game industry has decided that this is the direction we're going. They no longer care about GameStop. Not that they ever really did, but there was a period of time where GameStop was, and the other franchise game stores were really a controlling factor in all of this. That's why pre-order bonuses exist. That's why you can get a different thing if you buy a game from Walmart than if you buy it from Best Buy than if you buy it from GameStop, right? Each one had to have something as an exclusive to try and draw people into the store. That power is gone. Those companies don't have that same influence anymore. Now, the pre-order bonuses are here to stay because, of course, game companies found out that they are beneficial. But as these different game stores that are selling retail box copies of things start to fail, you're going to see those game pre-orders, they will start to be of less variety. You're not going to have 5 different pre-orders for the base version of a game. There's going to be one for the base version of the game, because that game is sold on Uplay and it's a Ubisoft game, right? That sort of thing will start to happen more. So the question really comes back to then, what is the end line for game retail stores? What are they going to look like in the future? And I think you can look at something like HMV as a really good example. So I worked at HMV as one of their wonderful sales associates for a little while, a couple of years. And it was music and movies. I was the DVD guy. I was responsible for buying those DVDs. And as I was working there, and this is probably, I want to say 2006, 2005, 2006, give or take, we started bringing in more posters. And then we started bringing in more t-shirts, and the add-ons started becoming a bigger deal. And if you've kept an eye on any of the stuff in any HMV stores, you'll know that they moved into video games, and they moved into little knick-knacky nonsense. And at a certain point, and this was painful and hilarious to me, they started selling MP3 players at a music store, where everybody was stealing their music now because, you know, that's how things were going. Well, GameStop has done the same thing. You walk into a GameStop and you look at all the things that they've got on the shelf, and yeah, they've got games along the walls. There's no PC games anymore, but console games along the walls. The rest of the store is PopCap figurines and hardware, controllers, accessories, and bits and pieces along the way. That's what the store is. And that's what they're going to become. Now, the question is, can GameStop survive on being a knick-knack store? Because HMV thought they could. And unless I miss my mark, there was a bunch of HMVs shutting down here in Canada recently. It was, I don't know for sure. Let me see if I can search that really, really quick, because, yeah, there it is. Hang on. I found it. HMV Canada, January 27th, 2017. HMV Canada to close all 102 stores as the ailing music chain goes into receivership after 30 years in business. Now, you think that this can't happen to GameStop. You're wrong. It can. HMV was the place that sold music and movies. Music was replaced by Spotify, Google Play, Amazon Music. Movies were replaced by Netflix, HBO, any number of other online-only distribution services. But people don't have a good enough internet connection. Well, apparently they do. Now, the problem with that is that the people that don't have the good internet connection, that cannot keep up, get left behind. The game industry would love to sell you a game, but if they have to keep an entire manufacturing division putting together DVDs so that that game can get to you, but none of the stores want to carry it because you're not bringing in enough volume for them to actually have a section of their store dedicated to video games, right? We may well see that GameStop itself cannot operate for a long period of time when the floor gets too low, when that revenue has started to dry up too much, right? Just because the internet connections have not kept up doesn't mean that that floor can't fall out from under everybody if GameStop goes under. And I think that they're moving on to other things anyways, right? They're spending all of their time trying to figure out a way to get over this used game nonsense that is the business that they operate in. And the game industry is moving away from that. We don't own our games, right? Your console, you just happen to have a game that can be traded to someone else. I don't think that's going to continue for too much longer, as much as it makes me upset to do so, to see that kind of thing change. Now, I did want to bring up a couple of comments, though. And part of the point of these sorts of discussions is to, I want to try to engage with the people that are watching the videos that I make, and take a look at the comments that they've gotten and try and incorporate some of that in. And to this point, I have, as I say, I've read every comment where people were suggesting things for this discussion. But there were a couple of people that really get it where this is going and what GameStop doesn't do and what they need to do in order to be successful. On YouTube, Sam Gosner posted a link to an article that was talking about the idea of the sort of emotional bond between the shopper and the store. You know, the idea that in a restaurant, it takes you a couple of visits before you're really invested in that restaurant. Once you've been there 3 times or so, you're hooked. That's a restaurant that is now in the back of your mind whenever you're thinking of a place to go eat. And that is very much right on point. And Lyrical DJ as well made a comment talking about the games retail market being a service rather than a product. And that's the difference. That's what GameStop lost along the way. If you went to a GameStop 15 years ago, back when, and my last game that I lined up for, I want to say, I think it was Diablo 3, the collector's edition. And the only reason I lined up for it was because I wanted the collector's edition on day one. Before that, I would line up occasionally for video games, and we would have great discussions talking about people talking with people in line, bantering back and forth with the people in the store, because of course they're on the other side of the cage and they can't open the cage yet because they're not open, right? You're having great discussions. The people that worked at GameStop were knowledgeable. I've heard the same thing about Game in the UK. I've heard the same thing. I've dealt with the same thing. Rather, it was EB Games here in Canada, GameStop in the States, until GameStop came over and changed the names of all of them. That service mattered. And it doesn't anymore. Right now we have this wonderful system that GameStop has that punishes people that don't sell enough used copies or don't sell enough pre-orders. They've completely gone the wrong way. They alienated their customers by focusing too hard on, we have to make a shit ton of money off of these used games. And now the gamers said, well, if I'm going to get treated like crap when I go into a store, if I'm going to get constantly upsold to, if I'm going to get bantered back and forth about protection plans and this and that and the other shit, well, then I'll just buy it on Amazon or I'll just buy it on Steam. If I buy it on Amazon, they're going to ask me the same question. Do you want to apply for the Amazon credit card and get 10% off? And I'll say, fuck no. And I'll just buy it on its own. And I don't have to deal with a person doing that to me in person, like, face to face. That's the mistake that GameStop made. And that is the thing that GameStop can do if they want to change this situation. Their service has to become number one. They have to turn off this nonsense about pushing the used sales as the first and foremost thing. They need to build those relationships with game customers. And I think maybe it's too late. I think they've gone too far. But if GameStop went back to being the place where the person behind the counter knew more about games than the person that was buying the game, because it ain't that now, that would change a lot. Right? The idea of being able to go into a game store and look for that expertise. Go up and talk to the person and say, what's the best new game that you've had out in the last 2 weeks? And not have them look and say, well, I've got a used copy of Battlefield 1. That's a good game. Everybody loves that game. Well, okay, how does it play? Is it appropriate for somebody that, is really big into this kind of game? Where's that expertise? It's gone. They're hiring people that don't know a damn thing about it. And even if they do know a damn thing about it, they're crushed. Their spirit is crushed by trying to work in a game or in an industry that wants nothing to do with their expertise. The industry wants them to do nothing more than sell used copies, sell pre-orders, sell memberships. Don't sell those new games. Fucking nonsense. So what we're going to see is we're going to see the mom and pop shops can always survive. As long as they're run properly, they're the ones that are focusing on that service. And that's what GameStop's not going to do. Walmart's never going to do it. Best Buy's never going to do it. They're all too big. They're all to the point where it's just not a thing that they can do. Now, the big question that arises out of all of this, we know that the internet connection problem is going to be one of those things that sticks around for quite a while. I don't want to get political, but we've seen some changes in the United States, right? The FCC chairman, the whole thing going after net neutrality and all, like we are not going to see a fire held to the internet service providers in the States over the next 4 years, right? Regardless of what you think about the politics of the situation, that's pretty much a reality at this point. The ISPs are going to keep doing what they've been doing up until now. So we've got another 4 years with not a lot of innovation. But tech will continue to improve. And the problem that the game industry is left with is distribution of hardware. But, Amazon's kind of solved that problem for a lot of people. It's pretty rare now that you order a brand new console off of Amazon and it doesn't show up on exactly the day they told you it was going to. Yeah, I don't know. This is one of the topics that I've always had a bit of a love-hate for, because I have a lot of really good memories about going to game stores and talking with the people that were working there. And it was, probably right around the time of Diablo 3 that I started to realize there's no value in this anymore. There's no benefit to me. If I'm going to buy a video game and I absolutely have to go into a store, I'm probably going to end up at Best Buy, mostly because I'm going to go take a look at the headphones and see if they have anything good that I want to replace the Sennheisers with, which the answer to date has been no every single time, but that's how it goes. So that's what I wanted to talk about. The idea of the retail game market where, again, people like to say the internet connections are not good enough and they won't discontinue retail games. But the problem is that if the sales get too low, GameStop might go under before the industry decides to get rid of those retail games. And then you're stuck buying them on Amazon. And even still, the industry has moved on to these massive day one patches where you may as well not even have a disc anyways. Just kind of turns into a pointless thing. So thank you very much for watching this. I'm going to continue back to the stream here in just a brief moment. As I said at the beginning, or if I maybe cut that part out of this bit of the VOD, my intent behind this as a series is it's kind of an uncut look at how my brain works and the things that I think about in the game industry and how I can construct those sorts of thoughts and try and put together something that is cohesive. The intent behind how this is going to go is it will go up the day after for people on Patreon, go up on the Saturday on the channel itself. And then the following Monday, or following Sunday rather, at the end of the news wrap up, I'll have whatever the next topic is going to be. People can post their comments. They can chat me up on Discord, on Twitter, you know, pick your poison. It doesn't matter to me how you get me a message on this. I read everything, whether I can reply to it directly or whether I'm going to talk about, you know, what you said in the discussion on the Wednesday stream is debatable. You know, obviously the better the comment, the more on topic with what I was likely going to talk about, or perhaps the opposite if I want to argue with you. Yeah, I don't know. This stuff's fun. So thank you for watching this if you're watching on the channel. And let's get back to the live stream with a little bit of Domina.